the final 90 minutes for the Daytona International Speedway's 24 Hours of Daytona, the Rolex 24. Welcome to a very interesting 90 minutes. We know the grid, it's the final practice, everything's sort of locked in, so now it's a time for just a bit of spit and polish. Make sure everything is okay ahead of tomorrow's race. 90 minutes then coming up. Let's head straight down. We're a few minutes away from the session getting underway to your commentators as well. John Hindhoff is up with Bruce Jones and Ryan Marine in the pits. Here's third practice over to IMSA Radio.
Is that our Paul Sitting Wheel and Cadillac will no longer be leading the cars round because they wore out the plank. They ran the car too low, trying to get that extra half of a tenth in the qualifying session. I genuinely think when I've talked to people, I say, "How you doing?" They say, "We're doing all right, but we don't know really where we are." And that's the joy of coming here. Ask me honestly, if you ask me to put some money down on who would win any of the classes on Sunday afternoon, I honestly don't know.
It's pretty wide open, and that's the joy, like you say, of coming here and to start the season with so many things that are new, updates to cars, in some cases brand new cars, especially in the GT ranks that we have here this year. This is the ultimate test, the ultimate proving ground, but no one has seen some of these cars run for 24 straight hours, so really excited to see how that unfolds.
So you've heard from the three of us here in the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre. Let's bring in a familiar voice to you, although first time in the lane for us as part of the RSL team. It's Arjuna Kankapati. Good morning, Arjuna.
Good morning, John. It is toasty here at the Daytona International Speedway as we get ready to go, and that's why this session is maybe important, but talking with some of the drivers, they already expect that setups have been mostly dialed in, and this final 75-minute session, part of which is reserved only for bronze drivers, is used for procedures, making sure that all drivers, all pit crew members understand what is expected of them in the 24 hours. Because, John, as we know, you can make mistakes out on track, you can make mistakes in pit lane as well. And Duncan, Vincent's also with me down on pit lane. He's down at the GTD end of things.
Yeah, thank you, Arjuna. I certainly am. The cars are rolling down past where I'm standing just now. And again, I'm going to talk about the weather, guys, because the thing is the teams will have known this weather was incoming. So they will have tested in the past. They will have prior knowledge of what Daytona feels like in these temperatures. But I am going to start off by making my way down to the 13 Autosport car. Once the first bronze driver has got himself through the car, that's Ori Fidani, who is the team owner of that 13 Autosport, because they had a fire in the pit lane late last night at the end of night practice, and it's very important we find out if that car is A-OK. We'll find out in the first bit of this session, John.
I suggest most of yesterday evening was finding out what caused the fire, and then cleaning up the engine bay, because there was an awful lot of extinguishing used. By the way, that is absolutely no criticism. It had to be used. We had a fire on the pit lane, and quite clearly the teams around there and the marshals and the fire crews got to it so that it didn't spread through that mid-engined Corvette down there, just down to our right from our view. Talking about the temperatures then, let's do that for you. In the air, 73 Fahrenheit is 23 Celsius. And on the track, coming up nicely now, 81 Fahrenheit, now 27 Celsius. We got up to 31, 32, 86, 88 yesterday. So we're getting towards the warmer temperatures we saw yesterday, Bruce.
Just noticing the start of the session will be delayed. I cannot tell you for why, but having watched that incredible Mazda MX-5 race, I suggest there may be some other little bits and bobs they need to sweep clear. And, most notably when you're coming to a circuit like this with the speed you can get around the high banking, a cut tyre is not a driver's friend. So I think every team is quite happy to probably put it back 2 or 3 minutes just to be on the safe side. We'll give you a notification. Race now just pops up the message under 2 minutes now to the start of the session. So that's all fine and very sensible.
So just to underline what I said a moment or two ago, about the Whelen Cadillac. That car had its times revoked, disqualified from the qualifying session, effectively running a too low a ride height. Now, that isn't actually the rule. The rule is the underside, that what's often called the plank, because of how it looks underneath the car, and that was worn down, I think, in a couple of places from what I read from the decision.
Yeah, it was in the rear specifically that was the cause of the problem, and it wears because the ride height is too low. The car is running too close to the ground, and there's performance to be gained by running the cars close to the ground, certainly from an aerodynamic perspective. However, the rules are there, and they were breached, so they'll have 24 hours to try and make up for that miscue. That's not the only car that was sent to the back. We should also note that in GTD Pro, Paul Miller Racing's number 1, which had a top 5 run in qualifying, they too have been sent to the back. That is due to a camber issue, camber out of compliance on that car. But again, 24 hours to make up for the lost time.
Green flag is in the air. And we have an hour and 15 minutes to go. Just underlining, though, Bruce, what you were saying about trying to get that the final scintilla of performance. Also underlining what we've been talking about for quite some time. These LMDH rules cars, the IMSA rules cars, in fact, all of the hypercar, GTP category cars, the aerodynamic performance is crucial to the overall performance, and crucial to the aerodynamic performance is the ride height and particularly the rake of the cars. The Aston tends to run a slightly different looking rake and often looks a bit higher than everybody else, but rear grip to prevent rear tyre wear is absolutely crucial on these cars.
100%. Be bad enough if you were going into a 6-hour race, but going into 24 hours, if your setup just isn't on point, you are going to be putting stresses and strains through the car, and most notably through the tyres, that will not be your friend. So, of course, the fact we've got dry circuit pretty much every bit of running, that's been a helping hand in all of that, but it is about getting it on point.
Let's let the cars get up to pace. Remember the times here for our interest and for the team's interest rather than for grids being set. That's already been done. So we'll use this session to get through some of the stories and speak to some of the teams that we haven't already. Tim Gray, back up in London, our producer, is ticking off cars and drivers. To that end, Arjuna, who was the first person you spoke to in last night's session? Because Tim forgot to tick them off.
Oh, that's a good question, and testing my memory. I'll get an answer back to you when my hard drive has buffered, but in the meantime, I've got Danny Formal here at Wayne Taylor Racing's Lamborghini, and S'more, as he affectionately became known last year. It's great to see you back, and effectively in an unchanged Wayne Taylor Racing program in many ways, adding Marcus Ericsson in. But how are you feeling with these warm conditions that we were just talking about at Daytona?
Well, feeling really good, to be honest with you. Cars are in a great window. It was a difficult qualifying for us, but Trent did a great job. The team's been doing a great job, and we got it back to a great window last night. We were able to go P1 last night. Obviously, not everyone shows what they have, but the car was in a great window, and that's what matters. And really grateful to be part of this group, WTR, Lamborghini, Dex Imaging, number 45. Yeah, having the same group over and over always helps. It's always extremely beneficial. And yeah, I'm just super excited to get going, to get started, and 24 hours of racing tomorrow, and a lot of things can happen. We just have to be there at the end, and a lot of whoever finishes just goes there and gives it our all, and see if we could get another win for Lamborghini and another win for Wayne Taylor Racing in the 24 hours.
And speaking of Lamborghini, you'll be racing in the Huracan for the entirety of the year, we believe. But you got the chance to go over to the Lamborghini World Finals as part of the Wayne Taylor Racing crew and win. How special was that to win with the same crew that is going to be helping you this weekend as well?
No, it's incredible. Their first win since 2017, and it was my first World Finals win. Been trying it for a couple of years, and we finally got it done in an awesome fashion with Hampus Ericsson, Marcus Ericsson's younger brother. So now I got to share cars with both Ericsson brothers, and they're both fantastic drivers, great people, and just super excited to get back here in Daytona with the same crew and most of the same guys I had over there in Italy.
into Europole competition 343. Cars just to be on track just now. We've got Nick Cassidy with us. Nick, you were just enjoying a bit of time up there looking through the old phone. But how did yesterday go for you guys in the 343 car?
It went well. I'm very excited to be back in Daytona. I mean, my first time doing this race in a prototype, and for me that's pretty special. But also to be in a competitive environment, competitive package is a good feeling. And I think obviously this last hour and a half is important for us now, but I think we have a good foundation for the race.
Yeah, the race itself, obviously twice around the clock. What a way to start your racing year.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I started in Mexico a couple of weeks ago in Formula E, so I feel like this year's kicked off, full speed. It's been a really busy few weeks, but just loving it.
Thank you very much. We'll catch up with you later on. Good luck for the race.
He is, in fact, the championship leader in Formula E coming in here, just to give you some idea of all the star power at our disposal here in Daytona.
And also just the sort of global coverage of Ryan Marine as well. You were down there watching, and in fact the previous interview, the Lamborghini World Finals, Misano,
that
I was
you.
there watching. So you try and be as busy as possible. We deeply love all forms of racing, and I was going to pile in and say, of course, Danny won that, Costa Rica's leading racing driver with Hampus Eriksson. He's got brother, but he already covered it off. Just shows how good he is in front of a microphone. But yeah, the global spread of racing. But for Nick Cassidy, I mean, there's not much he's done wrong in the last few years in racing. He's been on phenomenal run of form.
Very nearly won the Formula E title last year. He's been in the mix the last couple of years and then switched over to the new Citroen team, leaving the Jaguar team he had been so successful with for a couple of seasons, and promptly goes out and wins for them in just their second race a couple of weeks ago down in Mexico. It was a pretty heady performance from Nick, who is super smart behind the wheel. I don't know that he gets enough credit for being a tactician, but he certainly is that as well as an excellent racing driver.
And I think if you look back across the past decade, New Zealand, in terms of its drivers on the international scene, really, really punches above its weight. And Nick is very much one of the flag bearers in that. But, good to see. And as you could hear from that interview, clearly a very personable person in front of a microphone as well, which from our point of view helps big time.
It does indeed. We always like that. Of course, also the 2019 Super Formula champion, but now very busy with multiple programs this year. He also was racing in Asian Le Mans over the winter.
Just a note, of course, that we have only a selection of cars out at the moment, Ryan. This is the split session, if you will.
So this explains your odd timing of this session, the 75 minutes, because the first 15 minutes is reserved exclusively for the bronze drivers. And then after those 15 minutes are up, in about 7-8 minutes time, it becomes an all skate and everyone's welcome to come out onto the track.
Talking of bronze drivers, another bit of news that broke overnight. If you're racing in GTD Pro, and this is something that Kenny Harble had been pushing for, when you're the bronze driver, coming to this event, he already had a minimum of 4.5 hours. That's been reduced to 3.5, so no worries about missing meals for Kenny.
Yeah, good stuff. Back down to the lane, and a meeting of two old friends, Duncan Vincent with Elton Julian. I presume, Duncan, you remember Elton from his racing days back in the UK in British Formula 3.
I certainly remember Elton piloting a Formula 3 car around the UK tracks many years ago. I was a very young, no, I wasn't too young actually, it makes you sound old, but it's always been great to me in endurance paddocks. Elton, how are you, first of all?
I'm good. I was really, really young back then, so it's okay.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. You still had that twinkle in your eye, though. You know, when we speak about being really young, I look about your garage here, and I'm astounded by the youth. Everybody is looking really young, really fresh.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of slightly engineered on my behalf. I have a lot of faith in these young guys to know what they're doing. There's a lot of young talent nowadays coming up through the ranks in both, engineering and mechanic as well. We're fortunate that we've kept the core group we've always had. But yeah, it's good. Thanks for noticing.
What's it like being the transition? Has it been easy to come from Ferrari to Corvette?
At the end of the day, it's just a car. The biggest thing is understanding systems and how the cars want to be operated, and it's setup window. But I think we've proven this weekend that the car is a good base. We have great support from them, which has assisted us to get to this level so quickly. In that sense, I'm very grateful. So it could have been more difficult. We made it a little bit difficult for ourselves yesterday, getting a little bit too confident on some changes and chasing. But I think we should be back on pace today and just get ready for the race.
Have you sat behind the wheel of it and had a few laps somewhere yourself?
No, we barely have had the car. we did a half-day shakedown in Carolina, and the next time we ran the car was here at the Roar. That's it.
So not a lot of track time. So almost every outing is a voyage of discovery.
Yeah, it has been. And, we had nothing but good decisions through the Roar. Then we took a big bite and kind of got ourselves a little bit lost yesterday. Obviously not that far off. We're 7th on the grid and 5th in night practice. But we feel we should be near the front all the time.
Thank you very much for your time.
Anytime. Yes.
Yeah, people, and a curse of the commentator, because that Corvette with the Evel Knievel stars and stripes livery has come to a dead stop, and I think that is dead stick for Henrik Hedman in the Dragon Speed car, just on the exit of the Le Mans chicane, right in the middle of the road, and I suspect that people will have to go off track to go around the number 81 car. The red flag, unsurprisingly, has come out with an hour and 5 minutes to go. Elton Julian, more than a decent peddler in his day.
Yeah, I was just doing the maths on that. I was actually a journalist covering that championship. It was only 34 years ago, but Elton was one of the babies. I mean, he was 16 years old, I think, being run by Alan Docking Racing, and he had some really good runs in the French Championship and had a Formula One test. Didn't come to be, but I mean, supported by his father Armand, they are just such passionate racing people. And I like the stirring of the pot. I like the fact they've moved from running Ferrari, but also he talked about keeping the crew together, and he's had Henrik Hedman, based in Florida for decades now, but he's been under his wing for a very long time, and I have a lot of affinity when people to crews that keep the gang together. Yeah. Simple spin for Henrik down at sort of between the entrance of the chicane and the midpoint, but round he went, ended up at sort of point 3 of the four corner sequence. But they're very fortunate, of course. There were only 15 cars out of 15 minutes, and not so many cars. It was only the bronze runners rather than the full gamut of 60.
A big sigh of relief, I'm being told by Duncan in the garage, when they saw the spin and that it hadn't hit anything. The only thing I'd worry about there is whether Henrik got the clutch plug pulled in quickly, because these cars do not like going backwards in gear, and that might be the only slight worry. The new Ford Raptor EMR safety trucks. And yes, please, Scott Bartlett. I don't need one with all the gear in, but I'm quite happy to have one with the logos on. That'd look stunning round Northamptonshire. I wouldn't have anywhere to park it, in fairness, but I think I'd get the respect I deserve on the country roads. The respect I'd deserve.
Yes, we'll go with that, John.
Brand new for this season. Yeah, there's too much curb there, Ryan, for Henrik Hedman coming through the first right-handed portion, and then the car. I actually did a really good job of almost getting it pointing in the right direction, but either couldn't get first or the engines died and won't restart.
I wonder if it comes back to what Elton was saying. The team hasn't had this car very long. They did a brief shakedown, and then they've been just doing the testing at the Roar and here, so maybe that's a situation that Henrik hadn't been in before. Evidently, they've been able to get it fired up, and it now continues on and makes its way back to the pit lane. So we should be pretty close to having this red flag removed, and not too long thereafter, the session opens up for everybody.
I asked a question yesterday that I was going to go and look at, and I forgot. That's a red flag in a practice session.
Yeah.
After qualifying, but does that mean they'll lose their qualifying?
It did last year.
Yeah, I thought it did.
It did. That came up last year. It caught a couple people by surprise, and I'm not aware of that rule changing. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's a really good point. And this is a strange situation. I believe this is the only event all year that has a practice session, in fact, 2 practice sessions after the qualifying, so a quirk of the schedule, but that could be costly from the starting grid position perspective.
Green flag just before they get back up to speed again. Worth saying that the openness with which IMSA and the competition department of IMSA has for us broadcasters in particular means that before every event we have what's called a competition meeting, and because of that various things, you were the one who got the vote in to go yesterday. To that, sat with the IMSA officials, Paul Walters and Paul Barfield. Brian Till, our NBC colleague, is the one who initiated all this, but just underlines, as I say, the transparency. One of the reason I bring it up was we can see down into the pit lane and how tight it is, and pit lane here was the subject of part of that competition briefing, effectively, that they gave you, and we've already seen some penalties being handed out, viz. part of the directives that have come forward from that.
That's right. It's a byproduct of the fact we have a bumper grid, 60 cars on the grid, and so space in the pit lane is at a premium. The point of emphasis that's been handed down from race control to the teams. There are markings in the pit lane. Teams are expected to have the front and rear axles inside of those markings if they're going to do a pit stop, and there's a few other rules and regulations in there about how you're supposed to park the car, what angle it's supposed to be at, what options are there in terms of if your entrance is blocked, can you then pull forward and back up? The answer is yes. You're expected to do that. Ultimately, if we see penalties for the positioning of the car in the pit lane, it will come down to, did the position of car A impede car B? And if the answer is yes, then expect a penalty. Problem here for the 37, This is the Intersport LMP2 car. John Field behind the wheel, just as the session opened up for the rest of the drivers.
That's at the Le Mans chicane as well.
And it's nosed into the tires.
I think that's a new tyre stack from what we saw earlier in the weekend. Because we had someone in the wall there in either one of the Mazda practice sessions or the first race. So we'll go back, I think, to red flag. This will just be curb again. Oh no, rear lock up there, maybe on the downshift. John will be annoyed with himself for that. And just brushes the front right of that number 37 LMP2, all Oregas, all Gibson powered. Whilst we see what happens with that, whether he can find reverse or whether we have to go red, let's go down to Arjuna in the pit lane, who is at Manthai.
And I am with Ryan Hardwick, returning to IMSA after a year racing in the World Endurance Championship, winning Le Mans, winning the championship, but back here stateside. How good does it feel to be back at Daytona, where you won back in 2022?
Yeah, it feels great to be back here. I mean, obviously as an American driver, this is home for me. This is where I started my racing journey, and it feels great to come back. I really enjoyed my time racing internationally in the world stage and got to become a part of Manthai, and man, the last few years are unforgettable for me, but super excited to be here, part of Manthai's, return also to IMSA and back racing at home, for me. So it's a lot of fun.
And we have warm conditions. You and I were just talking a little bit about tires. Slight change to the Michelin compound, but are you guys scrubbing your tires to avoid any outlap shenanigans when we go racing tomorrow?
Yeah, I don't think the tire scrubbing is going to be super important here. With again, this is abnormally warm for Daytona. I mean, the year that I won in 22, it was like below freezing at nighttime. So those outlaps were extremely difficult then. So it looks like we'll be treated to warmer weather this weekend. And yeah, I think the Michelin tires are working great. They actually heat up pretty quickly, in my experience. Without any scrubbing. So I don't think this will be so much an issue.
You're back for the first time in a year. What's the most special thing you're looking forward to when we go racing for the 24 hours?
I mean, just racing here at Daytona International Speedway is a special thing. I mean, just to participate in this race is an honor. To be able to have the opportunity to be competitive and to win is great. And also for me, I mean, just driving a Porsche around here is just a real pleasure. I love racing here in IMSA. One of the main things, I think it's also important to the fans, the cars, they sound so great here. We have a little bit less restrictions on our exhaust systems. It's true for all the cars, but I can tell you from racing a Porsche here in IMSA, man, it just sounds a lot better than anywhere else in the world. And so it's nice to hear these flat six engines screaming, leaving pit lane and around the oval. It's exciting to be back here.
And what's the difference in the Evo package that obviously has been introduced here in 2026?
Yeah, I mean, for us, so the Porsche, it's quite small upgrades, quite honestly. The car was already a great platform, obviously a winning platform. And so just a few small aero tweaks, couple changes to systems inside. It's not really a massive difference. The car was already so competitive, which I'm glad about. I'm glad they didn't turn the car upside down, because obviously we've gotten used to it, and it's been a very reliable program, a very reliable car, especially for these 24-hour races. So, ours has been a pleasure to drive. We're getting a little quicker and quicker each session, but the pace here this weekend, I mean, I'm amazed. Seeing what some of the guys did in qualifying, man, my hats are off. My longtime teammate, really good friend, Zach Robichon, took the pole yesterday. If anyone's going to do it that's not on our team, I was happy to see him do it. Zach's a great guy and an unbelievable driver. And man, that lap was, wow, my hats are off. I was out there and I was nowhere close to that pace. So, it's awesome, man. Pace is fast. Cars are fast. Sound good. Sun is out. Life is good.
Thanks. Great to have you back.
Yeah, man. Thanks. Glad to be here.
Let's put the mic on. Very interesting comments then about that Evo package. One of the things that's back on the 911 actually never went away for the Nürburgring spec GT3s, Mantis in particular, are the louvres over the front wheels. That's the most obvious difference on this Evo update pack. As I say, it never went away for the GT3 R that raced on the Nürburgring. We've had them here in the past. That has changed. The front end looks a little bit different. We've lost the day notice lights, the indicators, if you will, the trafficators in the front bumper. They're in accordance with the 992.2 or 992.2 in Porsche terminology, upgrade of the street cars. They've been integrated into those 4 distinctive day notice lights. And so that's the same now on the race cars. 1 or 2 other little detail changes on the Evolution.
Some smaller changes that you wouldn't notice just by looking at the car, a refined steering system, and also the software updates that are such a big part of modern race cars these days. All of these design updates done with improved drivability at the forefront of the mind.
Toby Luckett just had a wee spin in the Shopify number 11 TDS racing car. TDS running a green and blue livery this weekend, and that was in the pit lane. He's off and running again. Interesting livery on that. It looks like something's being blurred out on the front of it, as if we're not supposed to see it. Just got behind on the steering, actually had to lift off as somebody else pulled out in front of him, and the tyre warming burnout went a bit wrong. Almost picked up one of the GT Porsches. Duncan Vincent's made his way to Intersport. We most recently saw John Field pointing at the wall. I don't think he did any damage to that car when that happened, Duncan. Duncan's got Job van Uitert alongside him to have a chat.
Yeah, thank you very much. The big question was there any damage? Well, we saw a nose change, but was that just a precaution more than anything? As we saw John unfortunately facing the wrong direction there, Job.
Yeah, he just lost the car entering bus stop, and I think it's just, if there is damage, minor damage on the nose, I think they precautionarily changed that, but should be all good. He's now on new tires, so let's see how he does.
How are you finding life in the Intersport garage? It seems like a really nice atmosphere down here. We can see Ollie Jarvis is ready to go out next. I take it you'll be after him.
I mean, it's a new team. They've just put on everyone together. The Roar was actually also our real first test with everyone. So, there's always little bobs and pieces that you need to fine-tune, get right. But it's an amazing crew that they've put together. Everyone's doing a good job, so let's see.
Okay, good luck for the race. I know you're going to go out in a little while, but make sure you take plenty of fluid on it. It's a warm one today.
I will. Thanks.
Thank you.
84 Fahrenheit on the track. That's 29 Celsius. 75 in the air is 24 Celsius. We are getting the very best of Florida. It can be, well, it can be anything. When people say to me, what do I bring to the Rolex 24 Daytona clothes-wise? And I always say everything. Dress potentially for every occasion. Shorts, T-shirt, jacket, gloves, woolly hat. Oh, Intersport, into Europol car going very slowly on the banking, in fact on the apron on the far side of the track. See if we can pick them up, and they're must be heading back to the pit lane. Yeah, off. Now this is one of the really fancied cars into Europol the asymmetric green and yellow liveries into the pit lane. They've become, in rather short order, Bruce, one of the LMP2 teams around the world, both in ACO and IMSA rules competition.
Yeah, when they took the class win at Le Mans, it was after many years of not making, clear progress, gradually getting on the pace. But the team, and if you wonder what Inter Europol is, it sounds like a sort of great big corporation, but it's not what you think. They make patisserie and bread products, but clearly to do it very well. And Kuba Smikowski is just, he's doubled up across the team, but it's the fact the results are coming quite frequently now for them. So clearly the Polish crew have found the winning formula. And you look at the calibre of drivers they're attracting, that tells its own story as well. But right now, a little bit of problem for 43, but of course they've got another car in the race as well, 343, doubling up their chances.
I don't like the look of that, because that car came in very slowly. They've taken off the bodywork at the front of the car, but there's not any work going on as if the drivers told them it's definitively one thing or another. Who did we put behind the wheel of that as it went out? That was Bijoy Garg. Well, Bijoy knows his way around these cars. The front end of the car. Now they may have a fluid leak. Looked like they were taking in some kind of rag or something like that. Just going to have a penalty when it goes back out. Left the pit box early, so it will get a drive through, as will the Sun Energy 75 car. One of our pet hates there. On the banking, on the far side coming into the Le Mans chicane at the moment, the Dex Imaging Cadillac, Wayne Taylor Racing, back on home ground really with that manufacturer. I think it's fair to say that his first year back last year, Ryan, didn't probably go the way that they had envisaged either side of that partnership.
I think we could take probably out of that statement. The team has pretty much admitted the fact that that was not the year that they envisioned coming into the season, and it wasn't the year any of us envisioned for them, quite frankly. You think about the success that team has had with multiple manufacturers, but especially with GM over the years, and it did feel like a homecoming this time last year. But the frustrating thing for them has to be the fact that they were not able to consistently match the performance of the other Cadillac team, Whelen Engineering Action Express, and that will be something that they would have stewed over the offseason, provided plenty of motivation, and early indications, and I stress early, are that through the roar and through the practice and qualifying so far, they are closer to the 31 than they had been much of the year last year.
And I think that's all Wayne would be hoping for, Bruce, if truth be told. Nobody, especially, it would be nice to have an advantage. That's not the way of the world nowadays. A grandee, actually, of the sport, both as a driver and a team owner and principal. No doubt in my mind that Wayne Taylor wants to be in with a chance. He'll back his own team against anybody else if he's in with a chance. They just did not get themselves into that position at all last year.
No, they didn't, which is incredibly rare for their performance across, not the years, as you say, the decades as well. But if you've got a team boss who knows how to win this race, or be in the top handful with a shout of winning this race, even if mid-race it's not going well, the Wayne Taylor cars always seem to be in the mix at the end, and then it's how they deliver. So yeah, expect great things from them.
Let's head down to the pit lane and to Duncan Vincent, who's with one of the nicest men in the paddock. A big smile from Francois Perraudot. He's got a very nice car collection as well. Is he smiling now?
He's always smiling, John. Francois Perraudot never does anything apart from smile. He's the man who qualified the AF Course USA Orica, the number 83 car, to 12th place yesterday. You've just stepped out from your session there, and looking pretty hot, obviously, but quite happy with how things are going. Wow. Yeah, quite happy with how things are going.
Yeah, they're going okay, taking it step by step. I think the boys are really happy with the car. I'm struggling a little bit more, haven't been in a race car since last October, so it's been a bit of a reality check so far, but different kind of rules here. My job is really to keep it on the track, no contact, and try to give back the car to the boys, in a car that's as new. So we'll see. I'm getting up to speed. It's one of those tracks which is, you look at the layout and you think, oh, that's easy, but it's probably one of the hardest tracks I've ever driven on.
Did you enjoy, obviously a good few years ago you were a GT driver, but do you enjoy the transition into the P2 format?
I think if you look at the results, it's been challenging. I definitely feel more at ease in a GT. It's more my kind of car, but having said that, the P2 is amazing. I mean, the downforce, the sharpness. So as long as I can be in a P2, I think I'll continue, but it's not an easy job.
Francois, thank you very much. Grab some water, a lot of sweat down here. Let's head down to Arjuna. He's at Heart of Racing.
And I'm not far away from the V12 screaming engine, and I've got Ross Gunn with me now. Ross, interesting way to frame this race. It's the last race of your first full season with this Aston Martin Valkyrie and IMSA. Here at Daytona, I know it's been a struggle through testing, but how are you feeling just a day before the race?
Yeah, first of all, to be at one of the big highlight races of the year is a true honour. To do the first race in the Valkyrie at Daytona is something that we're very proud of. Of course, it's been a tough build up to this race, but it's through everybody's worked really hard to be, making sure that everything is working as it should be, and qualifying, we were kind of where we expected to be, and hopefully we're now building towards a race performance where we can get a bit closer.
In terms of those struggles that you've had, are you using this session to still find some things about the car? Because some other teams we've been talking about have been saying this is their final chance to run through some procedures ahead of the big race.
For us, it's a bit of a mixture. Of course, we're trying to get all of the jobs done, like the driver changes and that sort of stuff. But also, we have a few setup items that we still need to tick off, and then hopefully we'll be in a good position come tomorrow lunchtime.
Stay cool. Best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Halfway through this 90, no, it wasn't 75, you see. There we go. I've got it in my head. 44 minutes to go of the 75. Turner Motorsport with the liquid molly car, getting a driver change down in the pit lane. It's the number 96 car. That incident in the pit lane, I think that incident in the pit lane that we were talking about earlier for TDS under review, or has something else happened to that TDS car since then?
No, I think it was just Toby Lutka had a little sort of demi-rotation in the pit lane, which, let's face it, is not something you'd be looking for. It isn't ideal, so that's on investigation. The car is out on the track at the moment. Matthias Besch, Swiss racer, at the wheel, going quite nicely in the P2 class, but there is a certain problem for TDS racing.
Once again, turn one, with the wind not as blowy as it was yesterday, but just seeing the Dex Imaging 45 Lamborghini running long into turn one there, Ryan, with the wind behind it. And this will annoy some people and say, why does that make a difference? Even these GTD cars, these are aerodynamically optimised cars, and a change of wind direction can push the car into a corner or help it turn into a corner.
It changes the center of pressure of the aerodynamics on the car, definitely. That's a very experienced driver in general terms, Marcus Ericsson behind the wheel, but Marcus light on GT experience, made his GT debut, I think, with you back in December in Malaysia. Got a chance to drive one of these Lamborghini Huracans with his brother Hampus, and that combination of that and a pre-existing relationship with Wayne Taylor Racing has helped to make this a possibility. Another car that's having a problem here, this is the 8 of Sebastian Bourdais, which was stopped on track, actually had pulled behind the wall at one point, but now is back moving once again and is limping its way back around.
Just coming onto the high banks again for the Tampa resident, who hails from the centre of the endurance world. He is the Satoise from Le Mans. That is a car limping back into the pit lane. We'll keep an eye on that as we go down to Duncan Vincent for more from the pit lane, with 41 and a half minutes to go in this final practice session for the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship.
Yeah, this garage was top of my list this morning when we were chatting. The 13 Autosport car. I've got Ori Fidani here. Now, we saw yesterday the flash fire down in the pit apron. Can you tell us exactly what was the cause and, more importantly, what was the damage?
damage, I'm not totally sure. It looked a lot worse than it actually was. But it seemed to be one of the fuel lines by the fuel filler came loose somehow, and it kept spraying on the headers, so it kept reigniting till there was no pressure left in the line.
So you've been out in the car there just now. It looks, I mean, what a great bit of job, great work from the team. You'd never have known it's been on fire. How did it feel for you out there in the track?
Like normal. Car was awesome. We have the best crew in the paddock. These guys always get it done, and the car's back to normal, and let's try to push for the win.
One last question. How late did the team have to work to finish it for today?
These guys worked all night and still haven't gone home yet. That's the dedication they have.
Thank you very much. And that's not what you need as you move into a 24-hour race.
Exactly.
Thank you.
"40 minutes to go." So yesterday evening, right at the end, the back of the car had already been taken off for that Autosport 30, and so they were looking in there. There'd been an issue, and as you heard Ori Vidani saying there to Duncan, that as soon as there was pressure in the fuel lines, it just kept reigniting. Guys looking underneath. It's good work by the AMR safety team. That some of the other teams in the lane there, notably Inception from a couple of pits down, that's the camaraderie, because fire is a worry in the pit lane for everybody, but you're not going to stand by, Bruce, and see anybody else struggling. If you've got a bottle, you're over the wall and you'll be helping out.
And let's not put too fine a point on it. The pit areas are so small. They're literally a car length and about 2 feet front and back max. So, yeah, if someone else in a neighbouring pit has got a problem, it's your problem too. But for everybody, it was, up in the commentary box, we were putting the caps back on our pens, folding our laptops closed because the session was done. Night practice had been almost incident-free. And at that point, our hearts just sank, thinking, well, for a group of mechanics who were probably visualising their supper, it was probably something they had for a little while.
It was actually, I think it was actually after the checkered flag, wasn't
it? Was.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just sort of counting the cars back into the pits. We counted them out and counted one back, and it didn't quite come to conflagration, but it certainly got very smoky indeed.
Amazing, because that fire retardant form, liquid, whatever, it's sticky, it gets on everything, and the black and yellow number 13 looks like it's just rolled off the truck.
I can't imagine that cleanup job. That must not have been very pleasant, but racing mechanics always amaze me. Race teams, and there's no task too big. They jump to it, get the work done, because they know a race is looming. They have to be ready. That is a hard deadline that they cannot miss, and they've done a fantastic job. Ori said the car felt like normal. It certainly looks like normal, really sharp livery, black and gold accents on that Chevy Corvette. Of course, the defending race winners here looking to go back-to-back in class.
Hello to Jerry Z, Jerry Serpentis, just parked up in lot 4, getting his gear ready to explore the infield and the paddock. One of our regulars on IMSA. A bit of an incident for Heart of Racing's 23 Valkyrie, down on the low side of the yellow lines on the banking.
It hasn't set a time yet, but that's not the best way to do it. So I presume that's coming back into the pits.
Well, that is actually only turn... Is that turn 2 or turn... Is that the other end?
I think they're now into oval 3 and 4. Yes, I can see them
now.
Out the window. We had a message on our timing screen a couple of minutes ago that it was continuing slowly, and we saw a glimpse of it just behind that 13 Autosport car. And then I wasn't clear if it had gotten back up to speed or not, but now we know it did not, and it is limping its way back to the pits. Remember, this car lost significant running during the roar. They had an engine change that they had to do that cost them the entire night practice.
No major issues on reliability at all last year, and they seem, as they're turning the wick up, maybe as they're trying to become more competitive. It's always hard to say, but it's not been the start to 2026 that the finish to 2025 might have suggested with that brilliant run at Motul Petit Le Mans.
Oh, there was so much wind in the sails of that program leaving the season finale.
Oh, look, there's so much love that's blowing it down the track, because the looks, the sound, the everything. But, we were saying at the start of the session, Ryan, right, with the level of competition being as it is, every lap is going to count. And here we are, we've only got just over half an hour remaining, and there's no flying lap yet on the board for the Heart of Racing Valkyrie. It stopped in front of its pit area. Nobody even appears to be working on the car. Yes, they are, sorry. Mysteriously, the mechanics are dressed the same colour as the car. That's good teamwork, but yeah, they're just working on it. But I can't quite see what exactly is going on, but what is happening is the clock continues to count down.
And this is the only car in the GTP class that has not done this race before.
Yes.
So for them, any track time here at Daytona, yes, they've tested here a lot, but even still, any track time they can get is invaluable considering they are at a deficit relative to the rest of the class in terms of experience.
This is worrying. They've got the front bodywork off, and they are looking... It's got to be steering that they're looking at there. There are two reservoirs at the front. I mean, it's a work of art, the front of this car, because remember the tunable aerodynamic devices at the front of the car. So something... There's two reservoirs for the brake fluids, one front and one rear. They're going to tighten the wheels back up again. There's a mechanic kneeling in front of the car, almost in supplication. Please, be all right. And they were turning the right front wheel very, very slowly, as if there'd been some problem with feel on the front end. And now right in the middle of the monocoque, where there's absolutely no room at all, and at the same time as that's happening in the pit lane, the Risi Competizione Ferrari is going slowly, and once again the tower, number 8 LMP2, now with Kiffin Simpson aboard, is moving slowly. So changing Seb Bourdais out for Kiffin Simpson hasn't changed the look for Tower Motorsport, and that car is touring through the kink and down towards the western end of the infield.
This is, I have to say, in contemporary racing, really unusual.
Correct.
To have 3 cars in perfect track conditions and weather conditions hitting problems. So that Risi Competizione Ferrari looks fast, but it's standing still.
Red flag. Had to be. This is at the bottom of the Ferrari. The Risi car is at the bottom of Speedway Turn 2. And so with 33 minutes to go, there is still work to be done.
Well, and you think about it, John, for all the crews, they came here with 75 minutes of running, and they had a programme to work to, and they might as well scrumple up that bit of paper, throw it in the bin, and say, OK, what can we do with the diminishing remaining time?
Yeah, I'm at a loss to explain. Our pit lane reporters, I'm sure, will be now scrambling between 3 pits, and there's only 2 of them. But we'll try and find out what the issues have been. The Heart of Racing Valkyrie still being worked on by its team, still at the front end. So I don't think that's a power problem, which is what they had at the Raw. As Ryan said, they had to change an engine, missed the night session. So yesterday evening's night session, the first time they'd been out under the lights here. But this looks like suspension or steering. Number 27 Vantage comes in behind them. They're allowed to put the skates on those cars. That was something else that came out of that competition meeting that Ryan was at yesterday. So you can come in at an angle and you can put them on the skates and change the angle, but you can't work on the car while they are on the slidey dolly jacks. Peter Snowden has come into the pit lane, and as is his wont, he's drawn inexorably to Aston Martin anyway, which is probably just as well, because that's where the issues are at the moment. He'll give me a shout, I think, when he's there to have a chat with Ian James or someone from that team. The brake disc covers, what in Formula 1 would be called the biscuit tins, are coming off the front of that car. I mean, it's exquisitely designed. It is absolutely achingly beautiful, both with its bodywork on and the bodywork off. There is not a design trick that has been missed. And indeed, a bit like the 296 Ferrari, I've had a good crawl around the Ferrari, I've had a good crawl around the Valkyrie, but every time I go back to it and look at it, I see something else. I see another little, oh, that's clever, or look at that. Somebody pointed out to me that from the back end of the Valkyrie, if you look at the rear diffuser, it really is Batman's car because it is the shape of a bat. And whether that is deliberate and particularly aerodynamic. So when you see the car going away from you, and that rear wing, I mean, acres of carbon fibre, most of it left uncovered. And when you do that, Bruce, any little imperfections stand out like a sore thumb, and there's not a one. Not a one in that carbon layup.
No, absolutely not at all. But the thing that really strikes me when you stand next to the Valkyrie, it just looks tiny. You think, have they left enough space for the driver? Because if you look at the aerodynamic addenda front and rear, the bit in the middle obviously is where the driver goes. You can tell how technical I am, but it's just bubble wrapped. Tall drivers do not apply.
Yeah, the other thing that's interesting is the placement of the brake calipers. So you'll normally have the brake calipers at the front or the rear of the disc. The Aston is right on the bottom. There'll be a reason for that, and somebody can tweet in and let me know at IMSA Radio.
Get your weight as low as you can.
Well, but
tiny.
Almost certainly. Carbon brakes, of course. They use the Alcon calipers. And it is just a thing of beauty. And when you look through the gap towards the front wheels and you can see the steering arms and all that sort of stuff, they're all aerodynamically shaped as well underneath the car.
Just noted a car turning into the paddock area, and it's the Tower Motorsports number 8 Orica, Kiffin Simpson at the wheel. So that's going back to the garage, so that suggests not a quick fix. The clock continued to run. What have we got left? Not even half an hour.
Yeah, as was the Risi Competizione 62, both gone behind the wall, those two cars. Meantime, we go back green, as Bruce rightly spotted. Everyone moves out of the pit lane. Just a quick note, actually, for those of you, particularly here at the track, we have got the different sidewall colours again for the Michelin tyres. For the GTPs, there are 2 different compounds, uniquely so in IMSA for this race because of the overnight, the potential change in temperature overnight. It is what is generally called the medium heat tyre. That is yellow. I always think, I work it this way, mellow is yellow, and that's the one in the middle, right? I've got to get these the right way around. The red is the hard, isn't it?
To me, the wrong way round.
Well, the red is hot. You put the red one on when it's hot. When it's red hot, you put the red one on, and that is the hard compound, and therefore white is the cold tyre because that's like snow.
Okay,
so that's the way.
That's in people's minds. That's good. Right, let's just. I suppose we ought to mention. Right, we're going to have hopefully some proper running for just under half an hour. Cadillac number 10, top of the charts at the moment. Will Stevens, the last driver at the wheel of that. LMP2, Pietro Fittipaldi, the 2 Fittipaldi brothers on board. That's kind of a 73 GTD Pro. It's Max Hesse, very promising young German driver in his BMW, and GTD. Sally Yolut, so it's a Chevrolet Corvette with a Turkish driver on board. I'm sure those will change, but it just means they at least have had a decent run, all of those in their classes. But it is about working through a programme and seeing where we end up.
Let's welcome into the pit lane Neil Cole and Snowy. I'll go to Neil first because it's a quick one about Risi Competizione. Looked bad to us, Neil, but actually pretty much part of the plan for the number 62.
Yeah, I came to the pit lane at the number 62, the Risi Competizione Ferrari, expecting there to be frantic activity, but everyone's very chilled out and relaxed. And I spoke to someone, and basically they're just running a low fuel plan, and everything is going according to schedule. So there's nothing to alarm anyone about. Everything's fine. We're all fine. How are you? That's the vibe I get.
And please have a nice espresso while you're down there, because they've got one of the best coffee machines in the paddock. So, okay, they ran the car out of fuel. Again, we'll have to find out whether that costs them a fast lap. Peter Snowden, as I thought, migrated like the birds flying south for the winter, migrated straight down to Aston Martin and the heart of racing. What is the problem with the Valkyrie?
Well, I'm no expert, but I think brake fade in a Valkyrie around Daytona is suboptimal.
Right.
That's the issue. Apparently, that's what the struggling with, and they don't really want to continue with it at the moment. And there's no driver in the car at the moment. There's a mechanic sitting in it whilst they're obviously old-fashioned, pumping the brake, bleeding it, etc., etc. And there is, I'm just trying to see, it looks like we are going to get a driver into it very quickly. I think it's, yes, Roman De Angelis is preparing himself to get into that. So he's going to be the Valkyrie guinea pig, and let's go out on the banking at Daytona. And has he got any brakes?
Thanks, Snowy. That's interesting, because I saw the mechanic having a look around the front end and the two brake fluid reservoirs. He's now got the top of the front reservoir off. The rear one may have already been bled. I wonder if they've even changed. They might have changed the majority of the brake fluid there, as Roman De Angelis gets himself belted into that ridiculously tiny glass house cockpit for quite a tall young driver. Actually, they've got a couple of tall drivers when you think about it, because Tinks is not exactly tiny either, but they've fooled themselves into what seems to be a ridiculously small space.
Well, it was about, if I say 10, it might have been more than that. Let's say 10 years ago at Le Mans, you looked and thought, it is a bit like putting a letter through a letter slot, trying to get drivers through those tiny little doors, not just on Aston Martins, on front-running prototypes. And you know, there was a while ago when obviously in Formula One they had cockpits so small the taller drivers like Gerhard Berger would get cramp during a race, and going back to Snowy's word, suboptimal. You know, then they said, no, there must be a minimum length, so you can have drivers over, 6 foot possibly.
Wilson had that problem. Alex Wirtz before.
Yeah, entirely. You think about the safety ramifications of, I can't feel my feet, particularly on a street circuit. But, so there really should, to be fair, said a fairly tall person, be scope for taller drivers to fit in racing cars.
Well, I work with RML and Ray Malik well over 6'4", probably 6'5", 6'6", and Michael, his son, the same. And there was an unwritten but absolutely hard and fast rule at RML.
Boss must fit in the car.
The boss must fit in the car. So when we did the Ford GT recreation, the Celine S7R, all the touring cars, all the cars that have been done since, then in fact I think they're up to full-size cars. I think P39 is the new Porsche-based car that they have, which is absolutely stunning. The short wheelbase Ferrari recreation as well, which is now, of all the Resto mods, I think that is glorious, based on a 550.
You know what? To me, cars have outrageous performance now. You're very unlikely to use it very much, but why can't they be beautiful? And that is at the full fat beauty end of the scale. And just on people insisting on talk on large cockpit cars, TVR, when it was owned by Peter Wheeler, he was about 6'5". He made sure he could fit in the cars, and I'm the beneficiary of that with my non-rolling model at home.
So that's still not back with you, Joe.
It's a money matter. All right.
Money
matters, apparently.
Yeah, money matters.
So my wife told me.
Absolutely right. Down to the last 23 minutes. How about we have a look at the times, such as we are in this slightly disturbed session in terms of getting into a rhythm. It is the Cadillac Wayne Taylor Racing number 10 that is fastest on a 1:36.541. Porsche Penske Motorsport, the number 6 car, is out there at the moment with Kevin Estre behind the wheel. It's in second place, about a 10th or so. Then another 10th back. Sheldon von der Linde's behind the wheel of the 24 BMW Team WRT, which has been the better placed of the BMWs, generally speaking. 25 has had its problems, including a hybrid issue, an IT issue, we were told last night. A ticket was raised, and it is running this morning. In fourth place, Lauren Heinrich for Porsche Penske Motorsport in the number 7 963. With that, both the Porsche Penske cars with the update kit on, of course, here. Cadillac Wayne Taylor Racing's number 40 is in 5th. Tom Blomqvist makes up the top 6 for Acura. In LMP2, it's Pratt Miller Motorsport. Pietro Fittipaldi is out in the 73. The red and black number 73 for LMP2. He leads at the moment from United Autosport, the number 22 car. Rasmus Lind was last in that car, but that car's in the pits at the moment. Tom Dillman for Inter Europol. That car in 3rd. That's the 43 yellow and green car. Mick Jensen in 4th for United Autosport, the number 2 car. Charles Milesi for TDS, just ahead of Ferdi Habsburg for ERA. And in GTD, it's 4-5 pros now, and that's the 75 Express AMG, the number 75 car, the number 1 Paul Miller Racing BMW, the McLaren continuing its impressive run with Nikita Johnson behind the wheel of that new to the team and returning to the championships 720 SGT3 Evo. 4th place for Maxime Martin for Mercedes, and 5th for Dennis Olsen for Ford in the Evo version of the Ford Mustang. Then the best of the GTDs is DXDT's Corvette, ahead of 6th place in the pros, another Corvette, Nicky Katzberg, and then 2nd in GTD, the Dragon Speed Corvette. So those 3 Corvettes, both in GT and GTD Pro, very, very close in pace, and that's how they stand with 20 minutes to go.
20 minutes to go, one team yet to show at all. 2 cars, Vassar Sullivan Racing, Lexus, the car they're going to replace with something for next year when Lexus's GT3 run with the RCF comes to an end, but neither of the cars. Aaron Tellitz is down for driving number 12, and Jack Hawksworth, British driver, down for 14. I can only presume, because I can't see them on the pit apron, that they're back in the garage area, so perhaps if Neil or Snowy wanted to stretch their legs and get a bit more steps on their daily count, it'd be interesting to find out, because as a team you definitely want at least one of your cars out there gaining information.
I am the first to say that I am far from being a global marketing guru.
Come on, John, talk yourself up.
In any particular segment of the marketplace, but I do find myself scratching my head that Toyota and Lexus, both Toyota brands of course, for their Halo car in GT endurance racing, are going to call the car the GR GT3, and neither Lexus or Toyota in any marketplace. It will just be called the GR GT3. And I'm kind of slightly nonplussed by that. Lexus have got a huge history here in the States. This was the launch marketplace for it. Toyota, massive around the world, vying with General Motors for the title of most prolific, biggest car company in the world, depending on which metric you use. It could be one or the other. And yet they use neither of their brands.
Can I come back with the word unless?
Right.
Now, GR is going to be the band to promote.
Yes,
to make that pay, they're going to have an incredible range of astonishing performance vehicles of all shapes and sizes. It can't just be one Halo car. They're not going to do that, surely. You'd need probably, let's say, 3 or 4 different models according to the price band, what people could afford, and they've got to be, absolutely hard-nosed competition vehicles for the road.
Well, but they do have the GR Yaris, which is the rally car,
which is fabulous.
They have the GR Supra in GT3 and GT4, but they still have the Toyota badge on them. It isn't a GR badge. And I know the Gazoo brand is so close to Akio Toyoda's heart, because that was, he was years ahead of his time. That was his online car buying and selling platform, and hence that's where the Gazoo came from. But anyway, we'll see it next year, and we're excited to see that car. You'll have seen that. That car was at Goodwood, wasn't it?
Yeah, had it in road form and another form that looked a bit more extreme. And the story was, we could say, as commentators, would it be nice if it went racing? We couldn't say anything solid. You'd think, oh, come on, just say, let's go racing, because it doesn't like a Batmobile. It looks absolutely sensational. Long and low and mean.
We expect that Vassar Sullivan will be the team of choice next year, although that hasn't been announced yet for over here in the US. So we have one more season of the venerable RCF. Now, a little mistake in the middle of the Le Mans chicane by the number 120 green Porsche. That's the Wright Motorsports car. Who was at the wheel?
Tom Sargent at the wheel.
Very good. Good pick
Australians.
To put a bow on that Lexus Toyota GR, however we want to badge it, conversation, we did have Jimmy Vassar on during the night session last night. And Jimmy was talking as if they were going to be running the new car. He talked about being excited to have the new car next year. So,
the ink was on the contract, wasn't it? There's no doubt in that.
I think he probably has some information. I suspect he's He's got a
And even if he hasn't, he's trying to push the needle with public opinion.
Maybe he's politicking a little. That is possible as well. One other thing I wanted to mention, in case, and if you already had said this, then I apologize, but fans may have already heard it, but the Valkyrie did make it back out on track, and it's turned a couple of laps back into the pits after just a handful of laps with Roman DeAngelis driving, but at least they were able to work through that issue and get the car in a position where they could run a shakedown few laps, and now they're working on it once again in the pit lane.
Let's pop down to Neil Cole as the Valkyrie comes back in after that. In fact, no, he's heading back out again, should I say. Neil has been listening intently to our musings here. Thank you, Neil. And has gone to Vassar Sullivan. What have you found at Vassar Sullivan on the pit lane, Neil?
Zero, zip, zilch. It's a bit like a ghost town in here. It's currently being used almost as a spectator gallery, so I can always hustle over to the garages to see what work is going on over there. But yeah, there is no activity at all and no team personnel for either car. That's the 12 or the 14 at Vassar Sullivan. The mystery continues.
I think that, it might be they've just decided not to come out in this session, Neil, but if you wouldn't mind having a walk back to the garages, then that might give us...
I'm on my way.
Thank you very much. So only got little legs, Neil.
Come on, they're long enough to reach the ground. Well, fine, off he goes.
That's a good point. Neil Cole, Duncan Vincent joining us for the first time on IMSA Radio. Miss of the back straight chicane by Malte Jakobsen in the CrowdStrike 04. The CrowdStrike by Algarve Pro Racing. Plenty of fans on the Iberian Peninsula tuned in last night. How important is this race to Porsche Penske Motorsport? Thomas Laudenbach, head of Porsche Motorsport, is in the pit lane, sitting at the right hand of the captain, Roger Penske. That's how important this is. This is their premier motorsport, internal combustion engine motorsport program. You could argue about the 9X1 in the Formula E category, and they've expanded to running a couple of teams effectively in that championship. Braking problem down at turn 1 a moment or two ago for the Autosport 13 team. In fact, for a couple of Corvettes, because the number 3 Corvette, the works car with who's behind the wheel of that? Marvin Kirchhofer behind the wheel of that one. Both running long in turn 1. And yeah, wind still blowing. If anything, might have just picked up a notch or two. Not registering on the Beaufort scale at the moment, I don't think.
No, as soon as I saw that number 3 Corvette going too deep into turn 1, I thought, has the wind just gone up appreciably and just propelled it a little further? You immediately then look for a flag, and looking for a flag when you're high in a grandstand, if you see one, it's possibly in the lee of your grandstand, so you get fluky winds. But the Stars and Stripes, Star Spangled Banner blowing just behind that giant Rolex gantry back behind the pit lane, that's got a nice little gust, and it would be blowing them down the start-finish straight here. Tailwind into turn 1.
Just adding on, and we'll take your thoughts on this at imsaradio.com in the next 12 minutes or so. Executive producer back up in London, Tim Gray, who in particular is a font of knowledge in all single-seater, junior single-seater of the Formula, but keeps his eyes and his ears across anything. He said, you know, if you're looking at GR becoming the performance brand, as we've got the Van der Steur Racing Aston spinning on pit exit, and now having to do the Austin Powers 26-point turn in there. And if you've ever done this on any of the simulations, iRacing or whatever, you'll know how hard that is to get the car pointing back in the right direction. Again, it is Rory van der Steur behind the wheel of that number 19 car, and it's causing now a traffic jam that includes Kevin Estre in the number 6, the white striped Porsche Penske Motorsport car.
One thing that always strikes... Sorry, John.
He's pointing in the right direction. Just finish off the point that Tim made about GR. If Toyota and Lexus are trying to make GR their performance brand, look how long it took Cupra to be floated off as its own brand from Seat. They were the hot versions. They eventually became their own brand, but that is not the work of a moment.
No, it's not. And you think about Toyota, Lexus coming off that's one big decision. But to then have a subsequent breakaway, very tricky. I gather that Snowy has news from the pit lane.
Hey, it does indeed. Where have you perambulated to, Snowy?
Well, I just thought I'd move away from Aston Martin, as I've got labelled with that this morning already, like bees to the honeypot and all that. But I have gone and found a good friend, Ollie Milroy, who's at Inception Racing. Ollie, good to catch up with you, proudly with your BRDC badge on your top, as ever. We're trying not to get run over by tyre trucks in the fire alley at the back here. Ollie, how's your 2026 Daytona going for you so far?
So far, so good. It's the first time we've run the Evo on the 296 GT3, so it's been quite a lot to learn. The car's quite different, so for the team to sort of get their heads around the Evo package and how it behaves differently on track, there's been a lot of work. I think our engineers done a lot of late nights.
In what way is it different, Ollie? What's the Evo package change that you can admit?
Quite a lot. Suspension geometry, uprights, aeros. We've got different front bumper, different front splitter, different wheel arches. Quite a lot.
Very different car by the sound of it.
It is, yeah. So, and look, we've had a lot of curveballs this week as well. Like 1 minute it's like 4 or 5 degrees. The next minute it's 25, and I think it's going to be 28 degrees C on Sunday. I don't know what that is in local currency, but it's going to be hot, So that obviously changes the handling of the car and the feel of everything as well. So it's been we're grateful for the amount of track time that we've had to really get our heads around it. We think we're in quite a good place. I think generally we're struggling with a little bit of pace, but look, this race isn't all about lap time. There's a lot to this race. We feel like we're in a stronger position than we were last year, and we led most of the first 14 hours, so we had the suspension failure. So, yeah, I think we're pretty confident, and we've just got to go into it tomorrow just to play the long game. Stay out of trouble, no penalties, no damage, and whatever until 2 hours to go, and then see where we're at.
Your role obviously is a driver, but of course you've got Brendan Ariba here that you've been coaching now 5-6 years, I think it is, something of that order. When you have a car such an upgrade change like that of the Evo, how long does it take you to process that and understand it that you can then pass that information on to your driver?
Yeah, it takes a little while. There's a few different characteristics with this as well. We're really lucky that Brendan's a very good bronze. He's a very good amateur. So he's happy for us to set the car up how we want it, and he'll just drive it, and then we can teach him how to drive it. We don't, often with AMS, you need to set the car up a bit for them so it's friendly to drive. Brendan's really happy with the car moving around and stuff and being on a bit of a knife edge as long as it's fast. And, he understands his objective in this race is to give us a clean car in a sensible position for the last because he probably won't drive in the last 12 hours of the race, so he really understands his objective, and he's happy for us to set the car up so that we've got a great race car for the second half of the race and not just an easy car for him to drive. So, and yeah, obviously, part of my job is to be looking at all the data, understanding what I'm feeling in the car and try and translate that for Brendan to understand. Yeah.
Ollie, that's brilliant. Thank you. You've got lots of work to do and lots of data to go through. Obviously, we'll talk to you more over the weekend. Thank you so much for your first interview, and we'll see you later in the weekend. Good luck, mate.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Brilliant question from Snowy there to Ollie Milroy. Issue at turn 1 for Misha Goldberg, right in the middle of turn 1, hit the bump there, and the number 52 wins LMP2 car, which currently sits where? 5th, 6th position in class, maybe a little lower than that, and that's a set of Michelin tyres that I suspect won't be seeing any further use this weekend, which could be an issue because the resource that is Michelin tyres for each of the individual classes is not infinite, Ryan.
No, so at this point we're into the allocation that's still available for qualifying in the race. The allocation really began all the way back at the Roar last week, and so teams were already having to think about their strategy from a tire perspective back then. But for LMP2, for instance, from qualifying forward, just 23 sets are at the disposal of the teams. And remember, we have a 24-hour race. These cars do not do a full hour on a stint.
Good point. That's a very good point. So we've had 2 practice sessions, and we'll have a formation laps in a 24-hour race on 23 sets of Michelin tyres.
Caveat, there is an additional set available for that bronze-only portion.
Oh, yes, that we had here.
Exactly.
But they've got to be given back, don't they? That doesn't carry through into the race.
That I don't see that specifically written down. I think that's correct, but I can't say definitively.
Yeah. Johnny Palmer often says, even if the 6-hour WEC races, we've got a 6-hour race, but they're only allowed tyres for 4 of the 6 hours. And it's part of the strategy that makes the shorter endurance races, I think, very, very interesting. When we get here, Bruce, with the extreme changes from daytime temperatures on the track that are 31, 32 Celsius, that's 88, 90 Fahrenheit, overnight the track temperature will drop further than the air temperature because you haven't had the sunshine on for 13 hours and 21 minutes. I think we'll probably get down to maybe single figures, certainly 10 Celsius. So we're going to be getting chilly tyres and no tyre warmers here either. That's the other key.
Make the drivers work. That's my view.
I wish you could have seen Bruce Johnson's face there.
Pausing for emphasis.
Yes.
Imagine me as a school teacher. That would be scary.
That's exactly what I had in mind. I'm like, oh, sorry, Mr. Jones.
But no, I absolutely have no problem. And it's part of the process. And in fact, hearing Ollie Milroy talking about passing information over and Brendan being a really good recipient, Brendan's not looking for a handout. He is looking for something that is a real challenge. He's made an incredibly successful business career. His other sideline is motor racing. He doesn't want to be pandered to.
One of the good things about Brendan, that he works in a business that's data-driven. So looking at numbers, looking at graphs, and understanding what that translates to with your hands, your feet, your braking, your turning in, much like George Kurtz, and going back even further, I think of people like Mike Newton and Tommy Erdos working for RML when I was there. Mike was a data-driven person, and he could understand what was going on.
Yeah, it didn't really help him so much in Formula Ford when he was racing that because there wasn't a lot of technology to be employed.
No.
But, he did that. And then all
data
the
was watching the front wheels go up and down in front of you.
Accounting if you still had 2 front wheels in Formula Ford back in the 80s.
Fair point. Well made. At IMSA Radio, if you'd like to get in touch with us. Still to come today, our Friday main event is the 4-hour Michelin Pilot Challenge for the BMW endurance event. It's not been a clean run for Valkyrie and for Harter Racing. They're still struggling with something on the front end of that car, be it brakes, be it steering, but they have not turned the laps they would have wanted to.
Great little points just been sent up by Arjuna. Said he was speaking to Charlie Eastwood, talking about tyres and night time. He said the GTD teams only need to double stint 6 times, and they'll do all of those through the night. And you've got more of a sort of stasis in terms of temperatures. A really good point. And I love things that get clarified so beautifully. Well done, Arjuna.
Thanks, Arjuna. So even though he's actually not reporting in the pit lane at the moment, still passing us information through to the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre. Neil Cole, we sent on a bit of a mission into the paddock. Sorry, just a very sideways moment there by Toby Sowery. Through the kink and down towards the western end of the infield, but managed to keep 2 Michelin tyres on the tarmac. Vassar Sullivan was the question, not nary a lap turned in this 75-minute session. We were speculating whether they had problems with one or both cars, and Neil can give us the answer.
Well, strictly off the record and with an unnamed source, there is absolutely no problem. There is no panic. And they just chose not to run the cars for this session. I got no further information than that, despite pressing and despite going a long way to try and get it. So yes, apparently nothing to worry about for the Vassar Sullivan Lexus cars.
So Neil, the cars were in the garage area in any kind of state of undress, being prepped for the race? People had gone off for an early lunch? What was the situation in that garage area?
a bit of all of the above, really. No major work going on, just usual race prep stuff, and no sense of urgency or disappointment or panic. It's just me reading body language and
you're good at that.
Someone who was non-committal.
Yeah, you're very, very good at that. Neil, thank you very much indeed, with a minute and 12 to go. I understand that. It might raise an eyebrow and say, really? But they've got a lot of data on that car. It is the oldest homologated car in this field, Ryan, and they did do laps last week.
Exactly. They know the car. Jimmy talked about that when we talked to him last night. They feel like they're on top of things. I did go back and check, just out of curiosity, if they skipped this session last year. They did not. A couple other teams did. I noticed Paul Miller Racing sat this one out, and a few other teams elected to sit this out. So it's not without precedent, but track time is a precious commodity. You don't get that much these days. Testing is regulated to a large degree, and that speaks to a team that is confident with their package.
New fastest lap, and it's gone to Lawrence Vantour in the 963. It had been the Cadillac Wayne Taylor number 10. That car in the pits, as is the third place car on the timing screen, BMW M Team WRT as we now have it. That's the 24 car, which has been the better placed of the car. So Lawrence Vantour has found a groove of some description. The 6 car runs with the white pinstripes and the white swoosh on the side of the red bodywork. Its team car, the number 7, has moved up with Colton Herter at the wheel, up to 4th position on the timing. Check that, not Colton Herter, I've put him in the wrong manufacturer. Philippe Nasser, of course, in that car. That car has the black pinstripes and swoosh as the checkered flag falls on practice for the 2026 IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. We've had the testing at the Raw, we've had practice and qualifying. Now, all that's left, well, as we often say here, just one more race for them this weekend. One more outing. That's a full 24 hours at Green Flag at 13:40 local time, 1:40 tomorrow, and we'll have our Michelin countdown to green to bring you all of the action from all of the atmosphere, should I say, from the build up to that. Lawrence Vantour coming to the line, see if he improves. It's the sound of the Porsche 963 engine that you can hear behind me. He does not improve, I don't think. 136.9. No, he did not improve. He did a 36.4, which leaves him a whole 0.066, half a tenth or thereabouts ahead of the Cadillac in second and the BMW in third position. Thanks to our pit lane team, we'll let them stand down and head off to some lunch and try to beat the line there. Some final thoughts on this, Bruce Jones, before we wrap up and move into race mode for this afternoon. Perfect weather, can't complain about that. Slightly stuttering first part of that session. Teams perhaps still with work to go. Are we moving in with some of them into the unknown, even with race day to come?
Sadly, I think yes. I wouldn't have thought that yesterday, but looking at a few teams, it was an interrupted session, which never helps anybody. I mean, quite possibly Vassar Sullivan's approach of turning burgers rather than turning laps might have been the way to go. But the thing that slightly concerned me, John and Ryan, was the fact we saw quite a few cars having little niggling problems and moving slowly around points on the circuit. And having had the Raw before, I really didn't expect to find these little problems surfacing now. I mean, you can always try and be positive and go, you'd rather they surface now than in the race, but I didn't really expect to see those.
It was the most stop-and-start session that I've seen, and I've been here since last week. Yes. It really has been a very clean build-up to the Rolex 24, this particular session being the exception.
We will have the Michelin countdown to green coming up at a quarter past the next hour. With a quarter past the next hour here is a 1:15 in the afternoon here at Daytona International Speedway. On behalf of the whole team, thanks for listening. Make sure you join us for our live coverage of the build-up to and the whole 4 hours of the Michelin Pilot Challenge for the BMW M Endurance event. As I say, 1:15 local time. That is in exactly 55 minutes time. But for the moment, from Daytona International Speedway, for the whole team, I'm John Hinoff. Bye for now.
Thanks very much to IMSA Radio for that one, and that is it then. We are all done with practice and qualifying. The next time the cars are going to be out on the track, it will be as we line up ready to go for the green flag for the 64th running of the Daytona 24 Hours. Join us tomorrow live here on JB Motorsports for the opening round of the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. We'll be live the whole day. Join us, it's going to be a lot of fun. Take care, see you tomorrow, and for God's sake, go get some sleep. We're going to need it. Bye-bye.